Hey everyone, it's Craig Campbell from Pastor Craig's Vintage Cards, and today we're looking at Andy Carey and the story behind the cardboard for this player. Andy Carey, a third baseman with the Kansas City Athletics, here in this 1961 Topps, and this goes very well in my binder collection for 1960s. Uh, you can see it's a well-loved card. I've had it for quite a while. Honestly, I have no idea when I got this card, but I've had it for quite some time. You can see it's card number 5. Let me get this camera to focus. There we go. This is card number 518 in the 1961 set. And you can see Andy had been playing ball for quite a while by the time 1961 rolled around. So let's get into the story behind the cardboard on Andy Carey. I'm going to prop this up right here. That way I don't have to hold on to it. Yeah, Andy Carey. He was born Andrew Hexham, but then he took his stepdad's name, Carey, and became known as Andy Carey. And he was signed, when he signed, with the Yankees, he'd signed for the biggest bonus ever given by the Yankees at that time. It was a $60,000 bonus. And he played 226 games in the minor leagues from 1951 to 1952. Now, Andy was known as a brash, kind of outspoken, rather a cocky player. And his manager in the minor leagues was George Selkirk. And George had called him in, and according to Andy, he had just chewed him up one side and down the other, and had almost had Andy in tears. And it really made Andy mad. But he said, you know what? It really changed him, because when he was angry, it kind of lit a fire under him to play baseball a little bit better. So he was a player that played with a chip on his shoulder. And later on in his career with the Yankees, and of course Casey Stengel, who was a good needler, and him and Andy Carey had quite a few run-ins, but Casey would just stay on him unmercifully, and he became known as one of Casey Stengel's whipping boys, and as Casey just really kept him in line. Really, they had a running clash, I'll just put it that way. But just to show how brash Andy Carey was, he was not even on the major league team yet. And in the spring training of 1952, on the infield, he drew a line between him and the shortstop, who was none other than Phil Rizzuto. And Andy Carey had the gall to tell Phil Rizzuto to stay on his side of the line, and Andy would stay on his side. And he was a very brash but a fairly confident player. He made his debut in 1952, but by 1954, he was a starting third baseman for the Yankees. He started 122 games and had a pretty good average. He had a 302 average that year in 1954. By 1955, he had led the American League in triples with 11. And Andy talked about the fact that during Don Larson's perfect game that he threw in the World Series, that Andy had made 2 spectacular plays. One in the second inning, he snared a Jackie Robinson ball that was hit very hard and made a really good play to get Jackie out. And then in the 8th inning, he made a phenomenal play at third base on a ball hit by Gil Hodges, which preserved Don Larson's perfect game in the World Series. Now, Clete Boyer was starting to come on, and Clete became the New York Yankees third baseman. Only after 4 games at the start of the 1960 season, Andy was traded to the Kansas City Athletics. Then in 1961, he was traded to the White Sox, and after the 61 season, the White Sox traded him to the Phillies, but Andy refused to go to the Phillies. And so the White Sox then traded him to the LA Dodgers. And after the 1962 season with the Dodgers, Andy retired. His last major league appearance was September 30th of 1962. And he finished his career with a 260 average, 64 home runs, 350 RBI, with 741 hits, and 38 triples. And Andy's rookie card is the 1953 Topps, and then he had his last card was the 1962 Topps card. And he did have a 1955 Topps doubleheader. That was really his only card that you would call in kind of a non-traditional issue. Was the 1955 Topps doubleheader. But after retiring from baseball, Andy worked as a stockbroker, and he had been married 4 times, and he was married from 1955 to 1974 to Lucy Marlowe, who was a Hollywood actress, and appeared in nothing really big, but quite a few different movies. And he did say that after retiring, and then into the 1980s and 90s, being an ex-Yankee, Andy was heavily involved in the autograph business, baseball card shows, and everything else that came that way. And seeing as how he was an ex-Yankee, his autograph was somewhat desirable, and he said it was a very lucrative time for him to go to card shows and autographs and so on. But Andy was a 2-time World Series winner, of course, with the Yankees, and had a good career. And he died in December of 2011. And that is the story of Andy Carey, a really good third baseman. As I said, a 2-time World Series champ, and he had a .260 average with 741 hits, and that was the glory of Andy Carey's time, was playing with the Yankees and the success they had. And that is the story behind the cardboard for Andy Carey. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, leave a comment, like and subscribe, and we will talk later. Keep on collecting and enjoy the hobby.